It's okay to believe that you are not good enough and, speak to random people who you don't know. It's okay to not have this crazy CV and still be willing to go and speak out and still be willing to start from nowhere. All of us start from nowhere. All of us started from nowhere. I remember the first day I started my African entrepreneurship brand and I had 7 followers. I had 7. And today people look and they're like, wow, 25K. I'm like, 25K started from 7. 25K started from nobody. And I remember again when I moved to South Africa the first time, I knew nobody. I didn't even, I had a Kenyan accent. I didn't know anybody. I literally started from the bottom. I didn't know anybody. I was completely new to this country. And the only reason that I succeeded by the end of my time or my stay there is because I understood that, you know what? No matter what makes me different from all of these South Africans, I'm a Kenyan, right? That doesn't make me less worth it. And that doesn't mean I should stay at home or limit myself and limit me from opportunities or stop believing for myself. I remember being in high school when I first came in SA and telling myself, I want to be head of, I want to be a prefect. I don't speak Zulu. I didn't know anybody. This was my first time in South Africa. I sound like a Kenyan, proper Kenyan accent. And that never changed the way I believed in myself. Like, I never made myself an other. A lot of us go through this idea of othering ourselves. Finding all the reasons why we shouldn't fit in or why we shouldn't succeed in a space. And, true, right? Maybe we don't fit in. But that doesn't make us less valuable. That doesn't mean that my dreams now, all of a sudden, because I am new to South Africa and I don't know anybody, right? And, it's hard for me to make friends initially, right? That doesn't mean that I'm never going to make friends. That doesn't mean that I'm never going to succeed. First tip to networking is, what value do you bring into a room? A lot of us are always asking, why don't certain people, right, see us in a certain way? Or why is it that certain people have access to other people and you don't have that access? Do you know why? Because high leverage people who have a lot of network, people who have a lot of money, right? There is a certain standard that they hold themselves to. They're not gonna just hang out with anyone. To be in my circle, you must bring value into my circle. If you take away from my circle because you don't bring some form of value, and value is multifaceted. You can be a valuable person, right, just by the energy that you bring. And that will carry you on, right? You have positive energy. You always see things positively. That will carry you along in life. Specifically meeting high value people is that, they don't have any obligation like the rest of the world, right? I feel like what differentiates a high, or what the world calls a high value person versus a low value person, is that a high value person is not obligated. A lot of us live our lives by obligation. And the reason I ask, what value do you bring into a room, is because, when you don't live a life of obligation, like you've worked on yourself so much and you're so clear about the type of person that you are and what you stand for, right? There's just certain, like, you detract people who are not in alignment with that. And high value people are like that, right? Because I'm not, when you're in survival mode, you're obligated to hang out with certain people. You're obligated to drink. You're obligated to, go for parties. You're obligated to, be a certain way or dress a certain way to impress other people, to do your makeup a certain way to impress other people. But when you're a high value person, you don't care. You can show up in baggy jeans and a random shirt. And because of what you've been able to achieve as a person, people value you and people show you respect. People show you respect because of your track record. You have receipts about the type of person that you are, and that's why people network with you. People network with people not because of how you look or the way you are. It's your intelligence or your emotional intelligence, or what value do you bring in a community. We usually have or in a network of people, right? Specifically those like private networking groups. One of the biggest things I've come to learn is like every single member brings something of value. Every single member brings something that makes them special. Every single member, right, shows up for the other members. They're reliable, right? They're reliable, and each of them bring value. And it takes a lot of time. And this is another thing about networking. You may network today for 10 years. You don't always have to network today for today. You network for 10 years. A lot of us ask ourselves, why should I just speak to random people? You may know today, but you don't know what 10 years looks like. 2-3 years changes a lot in the trajectory of a person's life. And somebody who you just saw to be, a normal person, in 5 years, never underestimate what God can do for somebody's life. Never underestimate what even the person that you look at the least and be like, this person will never achieve anything. I promise you that is the person who will achieve the most. So much can change about a person in 5 years. Like that mentality of the us and them group, right? There is no us and them when it comes to networking. And if you watch politicians, right, they always say in politics there are no true friends nor are they true enemies. I don't think that's just a politics thing. I think in life you should never be the type of person who rigidly says this person is my enemy or rigidly says this person is my friend. Because at any point in time your friend can betray you, and at any point in time the person who betrayed you once can become your best friend, right? And that's the truth of life, right? I like listening to political analysts, right, speak about politics, especially African politics, because of how complicated it can be. And it teaches me a lot about networking, because there are certain beliefs that I may have held about, if this, like rigidity, right? I should be so rigid about the way that I look at people and the way that I perceive other people. And once they do me wrong, I should never look at them like a human being again. That's the wrong approach to networking. And I think that's why a lot of people don't succeed, because you're so concerned with holding a grudge that you forget that sometimes people act not out of ill intent. Do not associate human error to malice, associated to ignorance, associated to lack of judgment, associated to self-destruction. A lot of people do not hurt us, and this is another thing about networking, right? People always think that if I act in a certain way, people will have this perception about me. I have this friend who always says, today people will speak about you on the dinner table, tomorrow they won't care about you. No one really cares about you that much. Every single person has their own problems. Every single person, right, is thinking about their own things. And in that same way, right, you never know what somebody is going through at any specific moment. Like, this could be a person's best day, or this could be a person's worst day. So how they react to you when you reach out to them, it has nothing to do with you, because it has everything to do with their orbit and their life and what's going on in their life. So it doesn't matter how people react to you or how people perceive you and how you present yourself. Networking is about being willing to be judged. And I think that goes to success too. Success is about being willing to be judged by people you do not know, because you understand that every single person has a different perception of life, and every single person, perceives things differently. And it has nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do with them and their belief. You should believe that the world is working in your favor. And if the world is working in your favor, then every single interaction that you have with people, good or bad, depending on what you label it, right, is just another opportunity to meet more people. Because another thing is, why are we here? Right? I think networking is romanticized to be this, this is the only way I get opportunities. No, you can get opportunities by merit. You can get opportunities by grace of God. You can get opportunities, now again, by knowing someone. But your opportunities are not limited. And this is another thing about networking. Your opportunities are not limited just to who you know. There's so many factors that contribute to why somebody succeeds. Business is inherently opportunistic, right? Inherently, it is people seeing some form of gap in the market and taking on that gap. But those people were once normal people who didn't know anybody that big. They became those people on their own merit and their own hard work and their own risk taking. So I also want to say in this video that networking isn't everything. And the moment that you realize that networking isn't everything, you would be so concerned with what people have to say about you. I speak to random people all the time. There's even I speak to random people in Germany, and I don't even speak German. Networking is just vocalizing how important you believe somebody else is, and giving them a matching opportunity based off of that belief or that vision that you have, that this person has something to offer this world. Networking is not that complicated. Networking does not need a 4-year degree and a course and LinkedIn. No, it literally just needs you to be on social media and to see somebody do something cool, and then send them a message, be like, I like what you do, right? And whether they reply or not is not your business. But you know one thing that is your business, that you, right, did not fail yourself or fail the opportunity that could have been given to you by not taking the risk.